Hi, this is Seth David from the world famous Nerd Enterprises Incorporated, bringing to you a special screencast. This time we're talking about Nerd's personal finance tips, how to save money. Knowledge is power. Make an impact by learning more. Call me right now at 866-945-8070 for information about private trainings. We always record the live session with you so you can review it as often as you like afterwards. So this is actually coming from a demonstration I was doing, totally unrelated to what I'm going to be talking about here, but the idea was sparked when I was just playing around with Excel and doing a demo for some people in a live webinar. But it had to do with actually mastering your finances and saving money. And of course, Excel is the tool to use for any kind of budget, especially if you're looking to just kind of scratch out some numbers and get a sense of what do I need to do. Now, of course, I think everybody's question when it comes to financial management, personal finances and business, is how do I save money, right? How do I put money aside? And I think what happens is when we budget, we kind of leave the savings part out of it because we don't think of it as part of the budget. We think of it as, hopefully the budget shows that we have some money left over and that's what we're going to save. But it's kind of a novel concept, and sometimes the best tips are the ones where you're stating the obvious. What if you treated your savings as a line item just like any other expense that you might have in your budget? Not a bad idea, but let's start from the kind of end and work backwards. Let's say we have some expenses here, right? Let's say we have your rent, and let's say your rent is $2,500 a month. I'm just going to make numbers up. Don't get blown away by them. And let's say we have utilities, and let's say you're living in a house. Maybe it's $600 a month, something like that, right? For water and power. Gas bill, let's say, is $60 a month. I have no idea. Gas for your car. The idea is you're going to sketch out your expenses here, right? And let's say at these prices, $600 a month for that. The idea is you list out all your expenses. Obviously, this is by no means complete, but I want to give you an idea of what this might look like when you're trying to set up an initial budget. The next thing you want to do is say, how much do I want to save each month? Right? Before you even total up your expenses, how much money would I like to be able to put aside at the end of every month? Put it in the bank account, put it in a money market, get it saved. The bottom line is one of the biggest mistakes we make is we don't follow some of the most common financial management advice, which is pay yourself first. Right? Before you pay anyone else, pay yourself, which means put the money away in savings. So let's say we want to save $1,000 a month. And assuming this was our complete budget, then what we do is we total this up and say the total monthly expenses is $4,760 a month. Now, the idea here is to say, okay, this is what my expenses are, including my savings. So, am I bringing in enough on a monthly basis to cover this, right? What's my monthly income? And this is how to look at it realistically. And of course you want to be conservative, which means you want to estimate the expenses high and estimate the income low. Now, if you know that if you're on salary, then you know exactly what your income is, assuming you keep your job. And I don't mean to be sort of morbid about it, but a lot of people are losing jobs these days. Let's be optimistic and say you're going to keep your job. If you know that your monthly income is $5,000 a month, now remember, this has to be net. We're talking about cash flow here, right? So if your salary is $5,000 a month, if you're making $60,000 a year, then your salary is $5,000 a month, but that's gross. When you're doing this kind of analysis, you really have to consider what the net is going to be. So if you're starting here, then label this gross. Right, and let's say what the net is they probably take out a rough average, let's say about 30%, so you're left with 70%. So take the 5,000 times 70%. That's what you're walking home with every day, or every month, not every day. If you're walking home with that every day, you're doing pretty well. So the problem with that is net income or pay. The problem, of course, with this is budget surplus, or in parentheses deficit. Problem with this is if I take my income minus my expenses, I'm short $1,260 a month. And you always want to put in a contingency. There's always going to be stuff that comes up that you don't expect, right? An unexpected auto repair, something comes up. So you want to leave room for something like that as well. So let's stick in a $500 a month contingency. Means we're short here. It means this isn't going to work. We have to cut back our expenses. And it's important to take the time to do this so that you know where you stand, because it's much better to look at it now and be a little depressed about it than to find out 6 months down the line that you really didn't plan properly and now you can't keep up with your bills, right? Or for that matter, you can't save what you wanted to, because having the savings, making sure that the savings is the first thing you take care of, well, that can save you in the event that you do find yourself in a position where your income is insufficient to cover your expenses. At least you'll have a savings to draw on if you need it, and the minute you realize that you're drawing on your savings means it's time to make some changes. So that's why this is so important. But this is literally how you save money, is you incorporate it into your monthly expenses, just like a check you would pay to anybody else. You know, and I'll leave you with this thought on this. Let me just put the label in here, contingency. I'll leave you with this thought. A lot of people talk about life insurance and say, "Oh, well, what's the point of life insurance? I could earn just as much money putting the money away myself as what the insurance company, what the cash value ends up being at the end of 30 years or 60 years or whatever it is." And the problem with that thinking is, yes, that might be true. It might be very true that if you put away the same amount, let's say it's $500 a month, that your life insurance policy will cost you, then at the end of 30 to 60 years, it should accrue to plenty of money. The problem is, what the life insurance company, or plan for that matter, does that we generally don't do for ourselves, is it forces us to make that payment every month. So if nothing else, it's a forced savings. It's one of the things I know I've got to fall back on, especially at times when I know I'm not really making enough to produce any savings, right? When this is zero, at least I know I've got that as a backup plan. I've got my life insurance, and I've got some cash value in there building every time I make a payment. So that's the thought I want to leave you with, is treat your savings, whatever your desired savings is, treat that like another expense. And it should be the same process. There should actually be a check that you write. Even if you don't need to, write the check and deposit it into a separate bank account. That way you really are, in every manner thinkable, you really are treating it like another expense. You're actually writing a check to pay yourself every single month. So important to do, makes such a difference. And even if you can only do $100 a month, that's something. So do it. Just do it. And don't spend it no matter what. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the web.